Welcome to today's professional learning session, an introduction to Workshop for Literacy. This session is intended to be self-led, so you can decide on the best approach for you in the time you have available. Literacy is fundamental to all aspects of life, and the ability to read, write, speak, and listen is essential if we are to effectively communicate with others and make sense of and contribute to the world around us. Being literate promotes self-esteem and enables learners to more readily access the wider curriculum, laying the foundations for lifelong learning and work. Research continually shows us that children and young people who are able to read, write, and communicate well are more likely to thrive in life with regards to their education, health, and employment. Within Curriculum for Excellence, literacy is defined as the set of skills which allows an individual to engage fully in society and in learning through the different forms of language and the range of texts which society values and finds useful. Take a few minutes to consider this statement. In what ways do we use reading, writing, listening and talking in our personal and professional lives? What would you consider to be included in this set of skills that are important for our children and young people to develop? At this point, you may wish to note some of your ideas down. Take some time to do so, and when you are ready, continue on to the next slide. The literacy experiences and outcomes outline key skills within three main organisers: reading, writing, and listening and talking. As practitioners, we need to have a solid understanding of this framework and use this to inform planning and assessment. This ensures our learners develop the relevant skills to help them access the wider curriculum and engage fully in society. Throughout all aspects of their education, children and young people should continue to develop literacy skills as part of their day-to-day learning experiences. National policy clearly states that regardless of sector or the subject we teach, literacy learning is the responsibility of all. A shared understanding of these responsibilities, together with professional knowledge of the experiences and outcomes, will support our approaches to learning and teaching and enable each child and young person to make progress in their literacy development. For secondary colleagues, it is important to focus on those key literacy skills which can be developed or supported most effectively regardless of the curricular area. The Principles and Practice document outlines skills in each organiser that apply to all learners, whatever the sector, whatever the subject area. Let's consider these now. When considering the key literacy skills earlier, you may have thought of similar or additional ideas to those highlighted on the screen. Ultimately, we want our children and young people to engage with others and respond appropriately to their views or ideas, work collaboratively and contribute positively to group discussions, present their ideas or explain thinking to others in a clear, expressive way, read texts with fluency, understanding and expression, find, select, sort and use information for different purposes, understand the purpose, main concerns and features of a text, create text for a range of purposes, for example a presentation, report or email, develop a repertoire of appropriate vocabulary and use this to communicate effectively, write in a fluent and legible way. Practitioners from the early years through primary and secondary education, in youth work settings and in colleges, are in a position to make important contributions to developing and reinforcing these skills through the learning activities which they plan, the environment learners experience, and through daily interactions with others. As there is a commonality of skills, the national benchmarks have been developed to provide clarity on the standards expected within each organiser for each level of the curriculum. Their purpose is to make clear what learners are expected to know, understand and be able to do. Using the national benchmarks supports consistency in our professional judgments around a learner's achievement of a level. To support you further with this, Fife have developed literacy progression pathways which amalgamate both experiences and outcomes with the national benchmarks. This framework then breaks down the different skills that contribute towards the overall achievement of a level and are intended to help you identify where a child or young person is in relation to this. We will explore this documentation in more detail later in the session. So what is Fife's approach to literacy? And how does this align with national policy and guidance? Workshop for Literacy was influenced by work originally undertaken by Jennifer Drysdale, a Fife practitioner. It is highly recommended that you read Overcoming the Barriers to Literacy, an integrated contextual workshop approach, for more information about her work. This paper can be found in your professional learning resource folder, which accompanies this session. The key principles of Workshop for Literacy are contextual assessment, responsive learning and teaching, engaging stimulus, meaningful contexts, daily opportunities, skills and strategies made explicit. These inform our practice and underpin high-quality learning and teaching. Through this approach, we can implement effective strategies and methodologies which have been proven to benefit learners across all stages and sectors, from the early years up to and including the senior phase of secondary school. We will now explore each of these principles in more depth. The Workshop for Literacy approach advocates that observation and assessment should always be the starting point. As practitioners, we naturally observe all the time. We notice the subtleties of what learners are doing and saying, and use our observations to inform our professional judgments about next steps or the best way to overcome any barriers. These decisions are further strengthened when we combine our observations with other information. For example, discussions with learners, effective questioning to gauge knowledge and understanding, professional dialogue with colleagues, and discussions with parents or other adults. Gathering together our observations of what learners do, feedback through what they say, and assessment of performance or products helps us to be responsive in our learning and teaching. Rather than following prescriptive programs of work, we determine what knowledge, understanding, or skills our learners need to develop, and the daily opportunities that will most effectively support this. It is helpful to think of this as a cyclical process as shown in this diagram. Following on from our observation and assessment, it is crucial for us to pinpoint exactly where each learner is in their development. Focusing on what learners can do, as well as what they can't, means that from the earliest stages, we can identify what will be most beneficial for us to teach. In Fife, the progression pathways have been specifically developed to support you in doing this. Once the skills have been identified, the approach advocates the use of a shared context to promote an inclusive environment. Experiences and learning opportunities can then be tailored appropriately so that all learners may experience success and progress towards the standards expected for each level. The Workshop for Literacy approach recognises that the needs of your learners in your context will be completely unique. Factors such as prior experiences and their early environment will play a huge role in literacy development. As such, the Fife progression pathways provide a shared framework. Skills are outlined clearly, showing connections that may be made and a natural progression that may be followed. This is not prescriptive and allows for flexibility, enabling you to act on your observations and assessment to determine the most appropriate next steps for learning based on where learners are in their development. Responsive learning and teaching is at the heart of the Workshop for Literacy approach. It involves us really knowing our learners, understanding their developmental needs, and devising a curriculum that promotes enjoyment and success. For further information about how the progression pathways can be used to support your planning, teaching and assessment, please see the guidance videos. These can be found in your professional learning resource folder, which accompanies this session. To help you reflect on the key messages that have been shared so far, take a moment to read the quotes that appear on the next few slides. Click to continue on to the next slide whenever you are ready. Which one resonates most with you right now? In what way does it support or challenge your thinking or current practice? Humans are born with an innate desire and motivation to engage. We are naturally curious. We want to get involved and find out more. One way to continue to foster this interest is by providing meaningful contexts which promote authentic opportunities for listening and talking, reading and writing. When considering a meaningful context, take into account the age and stage of your learners, their prior knowledge, experiences and interests. You may consider themes or topics being explored in other curricular areas. This enables skills to be developed holistically. Knowledge, experiences and interests will vary greatly, and it is important for us to know our learners as individuals. If some learners have more experience of something than others, might it be that we provide the experience before asking all learners to engage in activities relating to it? Also, how do we introduce them to the vocabulary needed to access topics that may be unfamiliar? We should also look outwards to see what may be of interest when it comes to current affairs, popular books or the latest film, trends, fashion or popular culture, or local issues or events. With that in mind, what kind of skills are you focusing on with your learners right now? Take some time to think about what context might be most appropriate. Once the context has been determined, a good hook or stimulus is needed to engage learners, be this listening and talking, reading, or writing. Sharing a learning intention or introducing the topic up front may not do much to grab a learner's attention or spark their interest. While it is important for learners to understand what they are learning and why, we can often switch them off by failing to capture their interest from the outset. Beginning lessons in a more creative way that requires learners to think, discuss, or get physically involved can do so much to stimulate their interest, generate curiosity, and spark imagination. This can also help activate their prior knowledge and understanding. Some ideas have been highlighted on the screen. How often do you engage learners in different ways and grab their attention by changing things up? Which idea have you not used for a while? How could this be used to start your next lesson? Try it out and observe what impact this has on your learners' motivation and engagement. Workshop for Literacy promotes the use of high-quality text. Learners should be exposed to various genres and types of text, selected for their rich language, imagery, and suitability for the skills being developed. We must encourage our learners to listen and talk about different genres, as well as read and write about them. What kind of real text do you make use of to engage your learners? Consider those you have used with them in the past few weeks. Was there variety, or did you tend to use the same text type? While the ideas shown on the screen are not a definitive list, they do encourage us to reflect on the range of text we should be exposing learners to. Again, different types of text are more appropriate for teaching different skills. Reading does not, and therefore should not, always just involve fiction texts. Providing opportunities that offer learners a variety of reading experiences will promote lifelong engagement with text for different purposes. Through a balance of teacher-directed, teacher-initiated, and child-initiated activities, learners should experience purposeful, daily opportunities which contribute to the development of core literacy skills and encourage a lifelong love of reading, language, and literature. Rather than schemes or programs of work, the approach promotes a deeper understanding of literacy skill development and offers more autonomy in how we support our learners' specific needs. When planning daily opportunities, we should consider how are these supported by the learning environment, the role of the adults who are working in the classroom or setting, and language interactions. Are there appropriate resources available to support? Are these resources and materials valued and well organised? Are displays or areas used to reinforce current skill development? Are texts high quality? Do we highlight the literacy skills that are being developed? Do we maximise opportunities to model positive communication, reading and writing skills? How else might we encourage a lifelong love of reading, language and literature? How do we enable learners to develop the necessary vocabulary or terminology? How do we promote opportunities for positive listening and talking skills to be developed, at individual, pair, group, or whole class level. The points to consider are an extension of the tiles within the progression pathways. Each skill is numerically cross-referenced, allowing for clarification or more information regarding the suggested pedagogy based on a wide range of research. They are intended to provide some features of highly effective practice and include practical ideas and effective strategies. These can be a useful starting point when planning daily opportunities and activities for learners. For further information about how the points to consider sections can support your teaching, please see the guidance videos. These can be found in your Professional Learning Resource folder, which accompanies this session. Throughout daily experiences, we maximise learning by explicitly focusing on key skills and strategies, helping our learners to understand them and apply them independently across all areas of the curriculum. For example, this could be making a positive contribution to a group discussion, using new or specific vocabulary, or applying a strategy to help them read an unfamiliar word. The gradual release of responsibility model is a structured method of pedagogy and valuable for us to consider, as it can be applied to any literacy skill or strategy. It is framed around a process devolving responsibility within the learning from the teacher to the learner. The diagram does not suggest that this process must always start with focused instruction before progressing to guided instruction, then to collaborative learning, and finally to independent application. Teachers will often reorder these phases as necessary. For example, it may be more appropriate to begin a lesson with an independent task, or engage learners in a collaborative activity as a means of assessment. The diagram merely shows the balance of responsibility and ownership for each of these processes. What is important and necessary is that learners experience all four phases when encountering new content. For example, presenting information orally, creating text in a particular style, or using a new reading strategy. Workshop for Literacy is Fife's approach to developing skills that are fundamental for reading, writing, listening, and talking. Further CPD is available to you, in which we explore how the approach underpins high-quality learning and teaching. Current research and educational thinking is highlighted to encourage critical reflection on the most impactful strategies and resources to support literacy development. Recommended professional readings and links accompany each session to support your ongoing inquiry. Throughout all sessions, there are tasks, materials, and opportunities for professional dialogue with colleagues to support you in developing ideas or next steps for your own practice. Creating a culture of empowerment will help us all to improve outcomes for children and young people. So next, consider how you can take your professional learning and practice forward following this session. All of these steps can be taken physically in school or using virtual means.